I'm James Gardner, host of Your History, Your Story, a podcast for everybody who loves stories about interesting people and events told by those who uncovered them from within their own family trees. This, we hope, will inspire you to discover and celebrate your history and your story. In this episode, we will be speaking with author, speaker, and Latina entrepreneur Lisa Caprelli. Lisa grew up with humble beginnings in El Paso, Texas. Shy as a child, Lisa had a vivid imagination and a gift for writing, and went on to be the first in her generation to graduate from college, where she studied social psychology. As an entrepreneur, Lisa spent 25 years in marketing, during which time she helped many CEOs turn their businesses into meaningful brands. Today, Lisa is focusing her attention on her passion for helping and inspiring children through a book series called Unicorn Jazz, and on an Amazon TV show called Unicorn Jazz Presents The Thing I Do. Through her books and TV show, which include puppets, music, art, and other entertainment, Lisa hopes to inspire kids to learn, discover their uniqueness, and encourage them to show kindness to others. I'd now like to welcome Lisa Caprelli to our show. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you for having me, James.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. We really appreciate the work that you do, and we just want to learn a little more about you to start with. Lisa, where were you born and raised?
I was born in El Paso, Texas. It's a border town. I was raised in a large Hispanic family. I am Latina. I grew up with 5 siblings, and I currently live in California. 20 years I've been here.
So can you tell us a little more about your family's roots?
Yeah, so my grandmother had just a third grade education. She was forced to drop out of school when her mother passed away. And of course, that would be taxing upon anyone. So she always encouraged us, as she became an adult, to get an education, that was going to be one of the best things we could do. And we did. My sisters and I were first generation to go to college. I actually excelled. I was always a straight A student, and it was really to make my grandmother proud. And she's not with us anymore. She's in heaven, but instrumental in my life as a mentor, as someone who loved us and believed in us.
Oh, so you really got an education from your grandma too, didn't you?
Yeah, that's so true.
It's so important. I talk about this a lot on our podcast about learning from people in our family and listening to stories that are told. And what a valuable thing that you have that memory of your grandma and what she taught you and what she told you and how that contributed to your knowledge and your education. Can you tell me something, Lisa, about some of your early favorite childhood memories?
Yes, I loved playing with my sisters, even though we grew up poor. I often say, how do you know you're poor unless someone tells you? We played in the backyard and would make believe games. I loved escaping into fantasy, and maybe that's why I love storytelling and writing books. And I often say my only voice was on paper because I grew up really shy. I was the shyest kid, like all my youth, and so today to be able to speak in front of schools, and we'll get into that, it's just been a huge life transformation for me. But I do believe that we have the capacity as human beings to learn, to change, to grow.
Yeah, definitely. And so you were kind of shy, but you had this sort of creative mind that was going on all the time, right?
Yeah, I did it. I thought everyone had it. I thought everyone loves writing as much as I did. Yeah, I still do. I wake up early and I write down all my ideas and get my creative time. But I'm grateful that we're all different. We're supposed to be unique.
Oh, absolutely. And never underestimate those shy ones, because they might be thinking all kinds of things and writing and become all creative, just waiting to just pop out, right?
Right.
Definitely. So did you have some other hobbies as a kid? Were you interested in anything specific that you like to do other than writing?
Yeah, we played make believe a lot. My older one, spearheaded that, and again, I thought everyone did that. We sang a lot. We're not good singers. We love to dance. Mm-hmm. We love to bake and cook, and I think in a lot of Hispanic families, you will see that cooking is prevalent. We love spending time with family. That's something that we did have, that strong sense of connection and love.
Oh, that's great. Terrific. And I guess you heard a few stories when you were growing up around family, right?
Oh yeah, we have lots of cousins, and we large family. When it was parties, it was music and lots of weddings and a lot of entertainment. I was happy, even though we did lack. It was embarrassing to lack basic necessities, but we made the best of it.
Yeah, and that all contributed to who you are today.
Absolutely, I appreciate things. I don't take things for granted. I cherish, having the great things I have. I cherish living 5 blocks from the ocean today.
You live 5 blocks from the ocean?
Yes, I'm so grateful.
Oh, that's
And
wonderful.
I go every day. Yes.
Do you really? That's fantastic. You mentioned you were a good student. As far as your education goes, how did your education progress beyond high school?
Yes, I started off, I was a court reporter, so I could read, write, and think 250 words a minute. And then I didn't want to do that. And I switched degrees to social psychology. And for me, it was important because of the communication I wasn't taught as a child. And it was through understanding people and perspectives that I knew was going to help me. That's something that I didn't get a straight A in school. And I needed that learning of college to understand psychology and human behavior. And I've always been fascinated about human behavior, why people do things, why they make mistakes, why they thrive. And when you are shy, you tend to be an observer of the world. If you're not talking, when you're watching. So that's why I often say to children, when I get to speak to them, is to embrace our uniqueness and skills. If I was extroverted and the popular one, my whole life would have changed. So we all need each other, and we need different perspectives, and we should support each other and team up and help each other.
Oh, definitely. So, I think social psychology should be part of all of our curriculums in
Right.
college, certainly, because you're always dealing with people. I mean, I know now a lot of us during the pandemic have to be sort of working remotely and things like that, but you're still interacting with people as we are now. It's so important to understand, why people do things, why people think things. And I think it could help us almost in any kind of occupation that we're in. But tell me, what did you move on to? I understand that you had a career in marketing and branding.
Yeah, I moved to California 20 years ago, and then I started a real estate mortgage business. Did well. It was the marketing that made it a success, and it was very quick success. Did that through 2009. The recession enters, and a lot of changes, and then I realized that even though things came back, and it's always up and down in that business anyway, I wasn't happy doing that, and I realized what I had done in my life at that point was help companies and the CEOs thrive. So I decided to start my own marketing company and learn social media. I wrote a book called Color Your Message, The Art of Digital Marketing and Social Media, when social media became prevalent, when Twitter came out, with 140 characters being your message, and people saying it's going to go away. And I was like, it's not going to go away. Technology is anything invented after you were born. It was not going away. So I knew that I need to understand the changes of marketing to be able to help others and serve them and get business. When you write books, obviously you're going to have some authority. For me, it was kind of like a business card. People would look at, I don't want to do all this. I just want to hire you. So I was able to represent all kinds of clients and brands, over 150 CEOs and brands I've worked with.
Wow.
And I saw a lot of common denominators, and me having that human interest in happiness and meaning and purpose. I got to always work alongside the CEOs, and are they happy? Are they doing what they love, all these things? And they would tell me, like, no, I'm not happy. They were workaholics, and they didn't have a balance in life. And then I decided to write a book called Skip a Step, Imparting Wisdom for Young Entrepreneur Minds. And you can be young at heart at any age. It comes with the workbook. I went on a almost 3-year journey researching, interviewing 13 notable entrepreneurs and leaders about what they would tell their younger self. What steps would they skip? What would they give younger people? Because I wish that was me, like, learning the shortcuts of things. And I didn't have an entrepreneur in my family at all. Self-taught, learned from all these different people, asking questions along the way. And the questions I asked was not like, how did they make it to the top? How did they make money? It was questions about, what would you tell your, 7-year-old self, your 19-year-old self? What message do you want your children and with your legacy? And I saw the common denominator was to, Michael Gerber in chapter 1, who was 80 years old at the time where I interviewed him. He says, well, to create is the meaning of life. I heard things like to have vision, that people and relationships are more important than money, that teamwork, kindness, all these different things, that if you believe in something, go do it. Don't take no for an answer. Don't do it yourself if you have to. At this book, when I published it, I had this, it's almost like they were all speaking to me, which is the purpose of the book. And then we want people to have that. And I just said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to market other people's vision and their stuff. What about my vision, my stuff? And I had written books already and published them. And then I thought, like, what would I want my legacy to be? What can I build that's big that I know is going to take time, as any business does? What do I have that's my own IP, my own intellectual property, what my own copyright if I were to create a product, a toy, or puppets? It was children's books. And then what was going to be my character? And I did research. The unicorn was a globally iconic figure, and it celebrates diversity. People of all ages wear unicorns and love them, boys and girls. I like that. I like that unique represented unicorn, unicorn. And I wanted her to have a special talent, which she would sing, because I'm not a good singer, but lots of people love music. So it was simple to come up with unicorn jazz. Jazz was also named after my niece, Jasmine, a sweet girl. It was available, the domain. I immediately went to a whiteboard and drew this crazy vision that people do like me, that when they want to create a company. And I saw the vision of beyond the books, of creating the toy plushes, which I have, puppets, and eventually getting licensed to do that. And I was just recently with the licensing convention, and people are talking about, God willing, getting our characters into an animated series. My goal. And to me, to write for life, I will take on that role. What I didn't know was going to happen is I started going into elementary schools, and they wanted me to speak about what it's like to be an author, encourage the kids to go to the library, literacy, reading, writing.
Wow. So you've got the first book, Skip a Step, and you're reaching out to, business leaders, CEOs. And you're not just saying, oh, how can you increase your bottom line or something like that? You're actually asking them to sort of look into themselves, and what questions would they ask their younger self? I think that's a really neat concept, because I think of it myself. What would I ask my younger self? What would I tell my younger self?
Yeah.
What kind of answers would you get? And what can you learn from even thinking like that? And how can that help you in the future? I think that's so cool. But then what you're telling me is that you were getting ideas from CEOs and things like that, but you were like, well, what's your personal brand? You're asking yourself, what is my brand, and what do I want to accomplish, and what do I want to do? And then what I'm hearing is you come up with Unicorn Jazz because you want to reach children.
Yes.
You want to reach children, and with a positive message. So
they're our future.
Yes, they are our future. But let me just back up a little bit and ask you, I know you asked yourself, like, what do I want? What's my brand? But what is it that transitioned you to children, and why children versus CEOs?
Yeah, I get asked that.
What caused that?
It was something that I wanted to do that was fun, to create picture books with stories. And remember, going back to my childhood, I love to make up stories. I can make up stories fast and quick.
That's
I did it as a mom. I made up songs as a mom. It was fun. I wanted to create a fun brand, something that I jumped to get out of bed and do. To work with children, I say, is to feel like you're 7 all the time, with wisdom that you can give back to them, hopefully, right? And for them, their vulnerability and their innocence, hungry to learn more. You don't get that from an adult as common. And I saw that. I come more alive when I'm around children, and being able to take a message and translate it down to their age group, 7, 10, 13, even when I speak to college adults. And again, that's because I study human behavior, and really getting in their shoes, in their age, and answering, and having humor. Like I say, if I don't know the answer, I'll Google it, that kind of thing. Because you get asked all kinds of things, and I'm ready for almost any question they have. And it was another reason was it was also a way for me to revisit my childhood, and in the odd sense as it sounds, it was in a way to correct it, to, I was giving to myself something that I'm sure there's other people, we often think that we're alone in our pain or our struggles, and there's other people going through other similar experiences. So it's for me to reach those kids, and then to give perspective to the other kids, to get the kids that were like me, like, be kind to that girl that's shy. Like, she doesn't know. Maybe she's hurting. Maybe she doesn't know how to speak up. Maybe at home she hasn't learned how to communicate like you, that maybe that's what you have going on at home. So it's a lot of it is understanding and being empathetic to feelings and emotions and things like that. And my books are categorized as social emotional learning. And social emotional learning is how we cope with our feelings, emotions. And it's often told now today and required in schools, especially since the pandemic, that teachers cannot teach effectively unless they are equipped to understand the social emotional cues of their students, and for the students to understand them and recognize them in themselves.
Definitely. In school, you have your friends and you have your little activities and stuff like that. And sometimes you might see a kid in the class is a little shy, and maybe you'll reach out to them, but maybe if they don't sort of join in right away, you think, all right, they just want to be on their own or whatever. But to have some activities or people sort of explaining that some shy people sometimes need a little bit more reaching out to, and maybe it's not that they're unfriendly or anything like that, but maybe they're just a little shy and they need an opportunity to sort of meet you and get to know you and things like that. And you're promoting that sort of thing.
Yeah. And I just saw recently my son's school in his newsletter, it said if someone looks like they're alone, or go up to them and be the person that changes their day, something like that. And I was like, wow. So of course, there's other people coming up with these positive messages, in schools. And I celebrate that, because it's not fun to be picked on or to feel left out as a child or in the workforce. And so I didn't know I was going to do all this. And every time I get to go on a podcast and be zero nervous, by the way, because this even used to not be me, I just feel that all my life, God has set me up for this. And I'm just the spokesperson for the Unicorn Jazz brand. I come with a lot of teams of people, my artists, my illustrators, the teachers, kids. During the pandemic, I started a show called Unicorn Jazz Presents The Thing I Do, which is, people have called it like a modern day Sesame Street meets Mickey Mouse Club, with professional Broadway kids, singers, actors, video pieced together. We do behind the scenes into a short show, and it's educational, it's entertainment. And we've been able to put some more of our puppets, Unicorn Jazz and Trazuki, two of my main characters, wanting to get more, knowing that it was a homegrown show, but it just came on Amazon TV recently. And people love it. And when another element I get to share with the kids is what green screen is, how I put it on my hand, and based on their age group, they want to know these things. You and I, James, we didn't grow up with that. We're older than Google and YouTube.
Mm-hmm. I'm a lot older than Google and YouTube.
Right. We didn't have phones in our pocket. You and I are more digital immigrants than the kids of tomorrow are digital natives. And so I get them excited about how lucky they are to have access to this technology. Their parents and teachers didn't. And of course, they light up because that's true. And it's almost like they have too much information and it could be taken for granted. But I'm there to impart wisdom on them, on get an education on what their interests are and their hobbies are, and to use them as a vessel for the rest of their lives. And to realize that they need a team, just like I do. I couldn't have done all this by myself. You need a team, and that's in life and everything. We need team people to champion our beliefs, our causes. Help and give back is part of what we do, especially since the pandemic, with children's hospitals, nonprofit, where we give books to them we're doing book drives. And of course, I love books, and I encourage public to send books. Kids send in their allowance to send books, and it just keeps going.
That is so cool. So Unicorn Jazz is on Amazon TV?
Yeah, Unicorn Jazz presents The Thing I Do. And The Thing I Do is based on one of my children's books and a song. And we have 9 songs and a song album on all the music platforms. And it's fun. I encourage you to watch it. I did it also, I thought of Baby Einstein, the founder who created that out of her garage on a small budget and went on to sell it to Disney. So for me, it is a homegrown show. It's not like a Steven Spielberg production. We did it with a homegrown studio on many regards. I am proud of it, of the kids coming together. It is entertainment. And the kids, knowing that the feedback from the kids and the teachers is they want to watch the whole show or they binge watch it, knowing that they were entertained and that they learned. It's just a lot of fun.
Well, I have 3 grandchildren.
Oh,
So yeah, so I got to,
please watch it and please review it. I often say, yeah. So we have
oh
season 2,
yeah.
5 episodes. They're like 20-minute average each episode. You're going to go through them quickly. But a lot of the inspiration came from the unicorn jazz stories and the messages of happiness, kindness, learning through fun facts through kids. We have a puppet-led game show with real questions on there, and it's a lot of fun.
So it really celebrates love, kindness, being unique, and believing in others. That's what it's about, right?
Well, that's the overall theme, and to celebrate the things you do and share it with the world. And the kids in there that are professional actors and singers, they love putting on a 30 to 60-second video and editing it and directing what the theme was behind the scene, which is I work with them and directing it. And then them seeing it that they're part of a bigger, greater thing. And so Unicorn Jazz has been described as a movement, and the parents, they gave permission, they have to, and started getting involved and seeing my vision as I would talk to them one-on-one and showing the vision. And one thing that people do know about my name, thankfully, is they're like, if Lisa's getting behind it, we are going to help and be, support her. Whatever she's doing is going to be great. It's going to be for the greater good. And I believe that, there's a saying is your name is your own personal brand and what you put behind it. So I could be really tough in business, I think, but rightfully so. I'm tough with myself. I want to do the best as I can. And I'm, I'll admit responsibility or mistakes. And I'm always here to learn from other people. But ultimately, I love providing a culture of happiness, of loving what you do.
Oh my goodness. Do we need you, and we need that in our communities today to think about, bringing people together, helping people to work with others, to not be just sort of skeptical of others all the time, or, angry at others, what have you, to actually work together and in love and kindness. I mean, it's wonderful. And then to teach kids these different things, and to have the puppets and the colors and the, and the colorful books. I think that's terrific. So did you think when you were starting off in marketing and branding and all that, working with CEOs, did you have any idea then that you'd be just like focusing in on kids and unicorns and puppets?
No clue. But it came quickly when I did start the vision, the way it did for the people. When I created outside the box thinking of what next, how do we make it bigger? It just became, I like in Forrest Gump, the guy who likes the shrimp and that's all he talks about. So that's been me for all these years. I just eat, beat, and sleep Unicorn Jazz and the work and the characters and all the people behind it, and them loving it, then sending information on do this for this school. Here's a charity that needs help. Here's, these people would love your story time. Here's a musician. And for me, like, I love it. It's not like, I'm not like, oh God, I have to talk to these people, please put my phone away. I'm just like, oh my God, look who I get to talk to today. Look who loves growing the brand that I created with the help and inspiration of people. And it's just been the greatest work of my life. And we often hear that if you do what you love, it won't be like work. And that is true for me now. It was never true for me before I built Unicorn Jazz. I always, envy people that did that, and some people in life that, they will or they won't, not everyone can be a leader, entrepreneur. We be a good follower. Some of us, we need that in the world as well. But now it's like, this is my world.
I'm hearing your story, and our listeners are hearing your story, but I can almost see it, Unicorn Jazz, sort of building up, because, you said you, as a child, you were shy, but you had a great imagination and you liked to write. And even when you played, you made things up. I remember as a kid making up stuff with our friends when we didn't have something to do on a lazy summer day, but, you're very creative. And then when you were talking about Skip a Step, and you were talking about having people you ask themselves as a kid a question, things like that. You were kind of going back to, hey, who you become kind of starts off when you're a kid, right? So, I mean, that makes sense. So,
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, you have the time on this planet when you're young to learn the right courses. And I encourage kids to do what they love. And obviously, you know, parents will push them to get a career in traditional careers because of money. You know, we know that. But I believe in pushing them towards their talents and their DNA. We're all different. I have a friend that has quintuplets, 5 kids.
quintuplets. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
they're all past college now. They all grew up to be
Wow.
completely different careers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are all wired differently. You know, if you're a parent and you want your child to be the next NFL player, the next, you know, greatest doctor to save the world, you know, it's nice to, and they may be, but at the same time, discover who they are. I also am an artist. I didn't know that art would fuel my soul until an adult. I did, and I think how that would have helped me. And I didn't have anyone really pushing and believing in my work as a writer author. If someone would have said, Lisa, this is really good, you know, I did get that from my teachers, but encouraging that, and again, how my life would have skipped some steps, and you know, that being unique is okay and celebrated, and being proud. I would have been like Unicorn Jazz, who is proud of who she is, and other people are proud that she's like that, you know.
Oh.
And I kind of look at it like, for me, when I would go public speaking, I was often really hard on myself in the way I spoke. I used to have a high pitched tone, which if you're nervous, you couldn't do that. That was me. And I used to cringe at the way I spoke. I wasn't like the extroverted, you know, popular guy speaking. Well, I learned through my own personality and who I am, and being authentic and vulnerable is I am me. And that's the best I could be in delivery. And I do speak from my heart, and I'm able to do shows like this, you know, many shows. And I'm so grateful. I don't lose my words anymore. When you're nervous, you can, you know, you can stutter, you can lose your words. And writing for me, I don't. Like, if I could just write my way through life, I always said it would be brilliant. But we need to speak. We need to use our words. I've learned how to use my words and do this now. And it's just come from lifelong of learning and knowing that, you know, we should be learners of life and keep on learning.
I agree. And I know sometimes it really takes years to find out what it is what makes you tick. Sometimes sometimes there's things that you think you're going to like, and maybe you're not fit for them, and you try it and you're not sure. Not all of us, you know, oh, I'm 10 years old. I love to draw. I'm going to become an artist, and that's it. You might find that it's going to be a combination of skills or gifts that you have or what have you. But sometimes you have to, you know, sort of ask yourself questions that, you know, am I going to just go down this path because, hey, it pays the bills, you know?
Or do that and develop a hobby on the side, an interest. You know, maybe you want to play the guitar, you're 40 and go take lessons. They're out there, you know. And I just believe that if you're happy doing the things you love, that's why the so-called the thing I do, the things, you know, you love to do, and sharing your talents with the world. I mean, I'm sharing my talents and my gifts with the world that as a child I thought were not good. Isn't that interesting?
We're really happy you are sharing your talent. What better thing could you be doing than invest in the young kids, young people in a way that's positive, you know, getting people to work in community and to be kind to each other.
Right.
That's great. You know, I just a little bit, I've mentioned this on some of my other podcasts, but doing what my wife and I are doing now with Your History, Your Story is sort of it's a combination of things that as a child, I loved history. I loved history and I loved hearing stories. I loved stories. I had 3 grandparents I grew up around, and like you, I just loved to listen to what they had to say. But I went into industry. I was in industry for 40 years, pretty much doing accounting, finance, and some other things. That wasn't necessarily my passion, but here I am. I'm in my 60s now, but now my wife and I are doing something we love, and we're meeting people like you. We're meeting, you know, people who are historical descendants or people who have great stories to tell. And hey, just because I'm 63 doesn't mean that I can't sort of reinvent myself using the things, gifts or passions that God gave me. And I think you're doing it and you're making a big impact.
Thank you. I'm so grateful this all came to be, and I just believe that that was my purpose. And if I can inspire people to tap into their purpose and talent at a young age, or as an adult, because I definitely do that with adults. When people see the work and the impact through the lens of a child, that's when that's what I live for. When I get to speak to children, whether it's virtual, since the pandemic, or in person, which I can't wait to do more of, to be able to really, for me, it's like a musician, a concert. When you go and there are days there, if you want them to feel like they're singing to you, right, among thousands of people. I like doing that with children. I may not reach all of them. Obviously, we're all different, but I do connect with a lot of them, and even one-on-one, when, of course, the greatest things, when they want to buy your books and that sort of thing. And every day I'm in front of children, I say, today is the best day of my life.
Oh, that's terrific. So if you had to say in a couple of sentences, how has your life been impacted through the work that you're doing now with children?
It's mind-blowing and positive. If I'm having a bad day, I just start working with what I do with children, and it quickly changes to a happiness state, talking about it on great shows like yours, of course. I love it because people don't get to hear the behind the scenes of it. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh.
And the interest in it, because I get asked the same questions when you go to school after school. They're kind of the same, and you realize they're asking the same thing because they want to know.
I know, yeah.
And that's a good thing. And I like being that voice that's going to inspire them. Stories are meaningful. It's the reason why when you watch a documentary, you're a historian. We learn from people and what made them tick, what made them do this, and it's the story. And I didn't know that I have a story. I get kind of humbled and embarrassed, because to me it's kind of like, that's not a great story. The stories of Unicorn Jazz are much better than my story.
Oh, no. So I have to ask you this question. I ask a lot of my guests this question. What do you want your legacy to be, Lisa?
It's for my books and stories and messages to change lives. When I go to school and I see my books in the library, sometimes in Barnes and Noble locally, become someone's childhood. They're going to grow up for their children and read them, sing to them the songs we have. To know that, I'm a speck compared to all the wisdom and knowledge and all the books that are out there. But to know that long after I'm gone, there's going to be a legacy. I see it and feel already. And I've already told people that are younger, you're going to take this over, and here's the baton. Now it's your turn. And it just makes it a life worth mattering. And don't we want to matter in life? Don't we want to, I once saw this in the movie with Susan Sarandon, and she says, what is love? What is love of being witness to someone's life? Well, to be witness to someone's life, you want to feel like you matter, and we all want to matter. We all want to matter. And so for me, if I can inspire all people that you should all matter in what you do, like you said, you and your wife do this podcast, what joy must bring you to do this, what you learned, the stories, and all these people, you didn't know all the stories till we did this, and you're sharing this with your listeners. And I thank you so much that people want to listen to the story. And as the brand rises, and we go back to, 3 years from now, to go back to this episode, and then in 3 years, maybe we've gotten picked up by a big network, and to be like, how did that happen? Well, it started with a story.
Yes, definitely. So what's coming up next for you? What do you have planned?
I have many books in the works. I have one called Help and Give Back, and that's because that's what we do a lot. And I as a child, my sister and I would volunteer at a hospital or a convalescent aging people's home with our summers and time off, even though no one told us to. We thought everyone did this, by the way. It was a way to us to fill our time, not be bored, and help others. So I believe helping others and giving back is important. So through pictures and picture books, we're going to show kids, because parents like that. And then I have a forthcoming book that's called Super Silly, Unicorn Jazz and the Fairy Taco. I have not shared it out with the public much yet. Fairy Taco believes in unicorn jazz, and she's the only one that can see it. And again, it's so silly, but there'll be meaning and message. And again, I love for kids to laugh. And And our stories, our books are very eclectic. There's not a rhythm and that shows the personality. When I talk to my illustrator, David Villalobos, I tell him, like, I love the way we work together in creating a concept for a book. And to create many, I want to create like Dr. Seuss created, I think it was over 240 books. I hope to create at least 50, but I would love to make hundreds of books and cartoon series and build a brand with products where, Unicorn Jazz is the toys. We have a baby board book coming out, more songs. So to be able to keep on creating, as Michael Gerber said, what's the meaning of life but to create? That's kind of cool.
And if you have to sort of summarize what the message, the overarching message from all of your books, from Unicorn Jazz, all the visitations that you have and will do at schools, what's your overarching message for the kids?
Celebrate your individuality and your uniqueness. Get to know who you are, not what other people want you to be, and learn how to grow from that. That is a lifelong process, and to be happy in the 5 areas of life. And it's a lifelong process: family, friendship, career, connection, and adventure. That's my message.
Terrific. What a great message. That's great. So how can people find your books or Unicorn Jazz workshops and things like that?
Yes, we're on all the social media: Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. Go to unicornjazz.com. You'll see I'm part of the brand in connecting with, and I love being invited to people's schools, story time, children events, things like that nature. My name, Lisa Caprelli. You can find me through that name as well. I'm very findable. I enjoy connecting with people of all ages that resonated with a message, for example, they heard on the show, or a message that can inspire kids of all ages.
I really want to thank you for speaking with us, for sharing all that you're doing, and a little bit about your past and sort of what helped you come to this wonderful decision to reach out to kids in this sort of a colorful, fun, and inspiring way. I really want to thank you, Lisa, for being on our show.
Thank you for having me.
So, for all of our listeners, keep discovering and telling stories that inspire you and others. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Your History, Your Story. Please subscribe, share, and check out our website at yourhistoryyourstory.com for episode notes and bonus content. We'd love to hear from you if you have any questions, comments, or a story to tell. Be well and God bless.